without a shadow of a doubt that God loved us and saved us. That's why it's something that we rejoice in. This is something why we take pride in it. This is why it's the good news. It's that symbol. It's more than a symbol. It's the way that God actually saved us. Now for me, as a guy, I'm going to hold up my man card here, but I actually like watching Jane Austen movies. Okay? Now I know some of you are shaking your heads, and some of you guys, I know for a fact you like them too, because you've told me. In secret. I won't reveal your names. but you do too. But one of my favorite ones is Pride and Prejudice, the BBC version. Keira Knightley can't act, so not that one. But I like watching it because you see the story revealed about how there's a love between a man and a woman and how it develops, and at the end it's all happy, we love each other, let's go to Pemberley. That's the house. But one of the things I think about is I love love stories because ultimately the greatest love story we find in Scripture. And we read about this God who pursued us. I mean, we see like in Pride and Prejudice how Darcy's pursuing her and does a whole bunch of things for her that she doesn't even know about, spending a whole bunch of money so that her family won't experience shame. In the same way, God worked throughout human history doing things that we don't even understand or know. And that He did it also that we wouldn't experience shame. Instead of just saving us, He wanted to accept us as family. And one of the things that I think about in this love story about God is He pursued each and every one of you. He pursued you and He desires you and He wants you to love and desire Him back and realize how much He loves you. And that I think about this romance story about God and with all of you. Because I think about the day that I proposed to my wife. I think about the day how I got on my knees, opened up the ring case, and asked her to marry me. And she said yes. After the 10th time. No, I'm just kidding. But one of the things that I think about is that's exactly what God did. You know, God pursued us. And just like how I got on my knee and I proposed to my wife, that's what God did through Jesus. That Jesus not only got on His knee, but He gave up the glory of heaven to die and come on this earth as the lowest of low in social standing, the poor son of a carpenter. In the Romans' eyes, He was the lowest social class. Not just the lowest of criminals, the lowest social class. And then He was seen as the lowest of criminals, suffering the worst kind of death that only was reserved for the lowest of people and the lowest of criminals. And He died on the cross. And when Christ did that, that was like Christ getting on His knee, proposing to you, saying, I want you to be part of my church. I want you to be my bride. And the cross is like your wedding ring. Just like how we wear wedding rings to remember the love and the pursuit and the commitment we're making, the cross is exactly the wedding ring for the church. That we look at that and we say, there's commitment that Christ won't ever leave us. In the cross, there's redemption, there's pursuit, there's a complete evidence that God loved us. That's why it's more than a symbol. That's why your ring isn't just some piece of metal, because of what it means. It's the same thing with Christ. He got down, not just on His knee, but down to earth in the flesh, lowest of settings, to die on the cross for you. And that's why when we get baptized into Christ, that's like our wedding ring. Our wedding ceremony. Because it's then where we say, I accept the message of the cross. I accept Jesus. And that's when I want to live for Him for the rest of my life, and that commitment. This is why we see the cross of Christ, His coming down, our baptism, our faithfulness unto death is such a beautiful love story. It's better than Pemberley. We get heaven. We get a relationship with God through the cross. You see, one of the things we understand about the cross is the cross leaves without a shadow of a doubt that He loves us. If you could have anything, what would it be? I always tried to find ways to express love or something. to people. I try to figure out, some of you have gotten gifts from me over the years. I like to listen to what you guys like, and I try to give you something. I even bought Steve something Yankee related. I had to spit when I did that. May God forgive me. King Griffey Jr. But one of the things that I think about was, I think about my wife. When I first met her, she was 14 years old. I think that's kind of weird now. But I met her at church camp, and I was like, I want that one. And so one of the things I did was at church camp, I actually did what guys, I know guys, I actually listened. I sat and I listened to all these things about her and what she liked. And one of the stories that she told me was how she was in her chubby stage. And there's a picture of her during her chubby stage holding a birthday cake of Winnie the Pooh at this birthday party. And so she talked about how Winnie the Pooh was her favorite and how she loved Winnie the Pooh, and she had this cake, and I see that, and she showed me a picture of her in her chubby stage with this cake, and she was telling me how, like, she had this birthday party of Winnie the Pooh. Everything was Winnie the Pooh, and after all the kids got a slice of the cake, she ate the rest of the cake. And so I figured she likes Winnie the Pooh. I mean, she ate him. And so I figured she likes Winnie the Pooh. And so one of the things I did, literally the day I got home from church camp, was I went to the local Kmart, and I went and bought this Winnie the Pooh stuffed animal, and I mailed it to her. And I'm just thinking, wow, I must really like her. I spent $5. And for an Asian, that's love, you know? I'm just thinking, whoa. And so she got it. She opened it up and was just like, oh, thanks. And I'm just like, I was like, okay, now I'm going to listen to her a little bit more. And I hear about what she liked a little bit more. And this time I was like, I'm going to double my love. I'm going to spend $10. And so here, hey, I was 15. I had a poor paying job. But I went and I kept buying her stuff. And then she's like, oh, yeah. Thanks. And every time I'm like, she doesn't like my presents. One of the things I didn't realize until later on was that she has gift ADD. She likes one thing, and then she stops liking it, and then she likes another thing. So it rotates, and so I always got the wrong gift. And so one of these days, I was like, okay, after years of getting presents wrong, I have to think of something that will make it known that I love her, and I won't get the gift wrong, so I won't be crying in the corner like I always do. And so one day I was like, okay, I'm going to give her this wonderful gift. And so it was this anniversary or something, and I pulled out my wallet and I just gave her cash. And she was like, oh, she loves me. And I was just like, without a shadow of a doubt, now I'm just thinking, you know what, if she buys something she doesn't like, it's on her now. But then for you guys, if you have wives who kind of have liking ADD too, money works, but then you throw it in and say, I'll go shopping with you. And then walk around and say, yeah, that's pretty, with a smile on your face. No, they'll feel loved. But the whole time I was thinking about that is, I thought, you know what, when we give expressions of love, we want to make known to the other person, without a shadow of doubt, they love me. I mean, I think about all the things that God has given me. God has given me my family, and I love my family. But sometimes I forget God. I know that God has given me a ministry and a job and a house, and I love those things. All good things come from God. But sometimes I forget about God. But when I center and I think about the blessing of the cross, I have a hard time forgetting Him. Because in the cross, I realized God must have loved and valued me. I mean, here, none of you would sacrifice your children for me, unless you really hate them. Just kidding. But you guys wouldn't, if you guys were holding the hands of me and the kid, you would probably drop me and save your kid. And I would understand. I mean, you're saving your kid. But I think about how God did that with us. He had Christ right here, and He had us. And He actually valued us enough to let Christ fall and hold on to us. That's what the cross is. That Christ is my substitute, my atonement. How God was willing to give up His beloved, perfect Son, who He made known publicly.